So, when you hear the name Medusa, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably a monster, right? Snakes for hair, a gaze that turns you to stone, the whole deal. But what if that story, the one we all know, isn't the whole story? What if it's not even close? That's what we're digging into today. We're going to flip this myth on its head. This isn't a monster's tale, it's a hero's tragedy, and we're going to lay it all out like a classic Greek play. So, let's pull back the curtain. All right, so our tragedy unfolds in 6 acts. We'll start in Act 1, the gilded sanctuary. Then we'll move through a god's shadow, the temple defiled, the goddess's judgment, a terrible metamorphosis, and finally, Act 6, the monument of solitude. Think of this as the playbill for her downfall.
And scene. Act 1, the gilded sanctuary. This is all about a life of disciplined devotion in service to a goddess. We're in Athens, inside the Parthenon. In any hero's story, this is what you'd call the ordinary world, you know? It's the before picture. And for Medusa, that before was a life of quiet, sacred duty.
Yeah, you really have to try and forget the monster for a second. Because before all of that, before the legend, there was just a woman, a mortal woman, not some divine being, just a person. And she was known for her incredible grace. She was a high priestess totally devoted to Athena, the goddess of wisdom herself. Her entire world was built on order and peace. Just try to picture it. You're walking through these beautiful, sun-drenched marble hallways. The air smells like frankincense. Your days are marked by the steady rhythm of hymns and rituals. Everything is safe. She lived inside these sacred walls in what was meant to be the most secure place in all of Greece. It was her sanctuary. But here's the thing about Greek myths, right? Incredible gifts are almost always a curse in disguise. And Medusa's fatal flaw? It wasn't pride, it wasn't greed, it was her beauty. We're talking a beauty so stunning it supposedly rivaled the goddesses. And this wasn't something she was vain about, it was just a fact. A fact that acted like a beacon, tragically attracting exactly the wrong kind of attention from Olympus. Okay, on to Act 2, a god's shadow. The subtitle says it all. The call to adventure arrives not as a choice, but a curse. See, in a typical hero's journey, this is where the quest begins. But for Medusa, this is a total dark inversion of that. There's no choice, no noble quest, it's just a curse. So who's calling? Poseidon, the god of the sea, and he becomes obsessed with her. Let's be clear, this is not a love story. It's a predatory intrusion. He is the one who brings this violent, unwanted change into her life. His massive ego is the thing that just completely unravels her world. She doesn't choose this journey. It's brutally forced on her.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. Her so-called adventure is all about survival, not glory. She tries to get away, of course. She runs deeper into the temple, the only place she's ever felt safe. But there's no escape. Her world, that safe, ordinary world, has just been shattered, all because of some god's whim.
Which brings us to Act 3, the temple defiled. This is her crossing the threshold moment into a new and terrifying reality. You know how in stories the hero makes a choice and steps into a new world? Well, for Medusa, it's not a step. It's a violent push into an absolute nightmare. This is the point of no return. The unthinkable happens. Right there in a corner of Athena's own sanctuary, Poseidon attacks her. The sacred space is violated. I mean, this is so much more than an attack on one woman. It's the defilement of a holy place. It's this horrific collision of mortal weakness and unstoppable divine power. And in that instant, everything she was, her entire identity as a priestess, it's just gone, shattered. And this really says it all. She's just standing at the gates of this awful new reality. Everything has been taken from her. Her safety, her power to choose, her very identity. She's not a priestess anymore. She's just a survivor, standing in the ruins of her life. All right, Act 4, the goddess's judgment. And the subtitle here is The Cold Silence of Olympus. Now, normally this is the part of the story where the hero faces tests, sure, but they also find allies, maybe a mentor. Well, Medusa finds no allies, only an enemy. And her test is to somehow survive the cold, hard judgment of the one goddess she dedicated her life to. And here's where the story just gets absolutely gut-wrenching. The mentor becomes the villain. Think about it. Medusa turns to Athena, her patron goddess, the one she served her whole life. She's looking for justice, for help, maybe just a little compassion. But instead of an ally, she finds her ultimate antagonist.
So let's just lay this out side by side. On the left, you have Medusa's plea, a victim crying out for justice. And on the right, Athena's verdict. And get this, Athena isn't mad at Poseidon. No, she is furious with Medusa for the ritual pollution of her temple. It's all about her wounded pride. She doesn't see a victim, she sees a stain that needs to be scrubbed out. And just like that, the victim becomes the villain. Athena's heart turns to stone. There's no justice here, only punishment. And it's a punishment so awful, so out of proportion, that it completely severs Medusa from her own humanity. The judgment is in, and the sentence is damnation. Now for Act 5, a terrible metamorphosis. This is the ordeal that creates the Gorgon. In a hero story, this is the ordeal. It's that moment of death and rebirth. But for Medusa, there is no rebirth into something better. This is the peak of her suffering. It's the agony of the transformation, the curse that will finally create the monster we all know. Let's actually walk through this horrible process, the unmaking of Medusa. Step 1, her humanity is just ripped away. Step 2, her beautiful hair, the very thing that started this whole nightmare, erupts into this living, writhing nest of snakes. Step 3, her gaze becomes a weapon, a terminal curse. Anyone who looks into her eyes is turned to stone. And finally, step 4, her soul, who she was, is locked away forever inside this monstrous cage. You know, this is what Joseph Campbell would call the belly of the whale moment. It's the absolute lowest point. But unlike other heroes, there's no rebirth into light for Medusa. Her rebirth is into total permanent darkness. Sure, she survives it, but that's not a victory. It's just the start of a whole new kind of hell. And that's the real kicker, isn't it? The woman she was dies in the process. That graceful priestess we met back in Act 1. She's gone. Completely and utterly gone. And from her ashes, the Gorgon is born. And that brings us to the final curtain, Act 6, the Monument of Solitude. The final stages of the hero's journey are supposed to be the resurrection and the return. But for Medusa, just like everything else, these are twisted into something cruel. So the hero returns home, right? A champion. But Medusa's return is an exile. She's banished to some lonely island at the edge of the known world. And her companions? A garden of stone statues. A silent gray monument to every person who ever looked at her. A monument to her complete and utter solitude. And her resurrection? It's not about coming back to life. It's the birth of the myth, the legend of the monster. Her real story gets twisted and forgotten, and all that's left is this terrifying creature. She becomes a boogeyman, a mirror reflecting back all the cruelty of the gods who did this to her. And if that wasn't enough, here is the final, crushing irony of it all. Even after she's killed by Perseus, it's still not over. Her head, with its power still intact, is slapped onto Athena's shield. So her journey doesn't end with peace. It ends with her becoming a weapon, forever a tool for the very gods who destroyed her life. So, where does that leave us? We've basically followed the blueprint of a hero's journey, step by step, but the end result was a monster. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What actually makes someone a monster? And what makes someone a hero? Is it about the choices we get to make? Or is it about the choices that are stolen from us?